Perpignan as the Catalan Dragons 14, Warrington 20. The Primrose and Blue go 8 from 8. But my God, did they have to work for it? A sensational team display from the Catalan Dragons, really putting Warrington to the sword and very nearly getting the first defeat of Warrington this year. Some massive changes in the Catalan squad going into this game, and a massive shout out to Tanguy Zenon at full back, who I personally thought was man of the match. I know they went for Ben Garcia on the day, but when you consider the difference in experience between the young player and Garcia, for me, he should have got man of the match. Really solid, 17 carries, 121 meters, only one error in the match from him. He was brilliant. We need to keep an eye on that young 20-year-old. He is going to go far. It was a game of controversy. It was a game of just high intensity rugby league, some fantastic rugby league. What I want to do to begin with on this episode, though, of In the Sheds, is, isn't it funny? Yeah, who are Warrington playing next week? Wigan Warriors, and Phil Clark is the gift that keeps giving. Do not know why he decided that this was the game that he was going to shout out on Matt Duffy. And I'm not saying for one moment I'm comparing Matt Duffy to Jack Welsby or Bevan French. I'm not doing that. I actually do believe that Welsby is probably the pick of the three, closely followed by French, and Duffy would be certainly maybe on the podium, but third. But I just thought that the criticism that Clark gave Duffy was completely out of order. Duffy this season has scored 5 tries and he's made 4. He's ran over 1,000 meters, 2 clean breaks, 37 tackle busts, and only 7 errors. He's made the least errors of French, Welsby, and Duffy. He's made the least in terms of tackle busts. He's right up there. In terms of meters, he's made the most. Only both Welsby and French have made more assists. Welsby 7. French 5 compared to his 4, and he's only second to Bevan French in terms of tries. I just thought it was an absolutely shocking effort on the part of Phil Clark, that one. I think Duffy, everybody would agree, he's having a decent season for Warrington. Well, one area where he was slightly right but also slightly wrong was the pack of Warrington. Yes, do you know what? They were well maintained in this game. The Catalan Dragons made more meters, 373 to Warrington's 313, with Paul Vaughan only 54 meters. So they clearly had a game plan to nullify Paul Vaughan. But of course, what we saw was that allowed the edges to flourish. I think it was the try by Josh Fulis where Sky clearly showed 4 tacklers, which creates so much space on the edges. So even though that clearly was the tactic to nullify Vaughan, and they did, 54 meters. It was his worst meter making of the season. What it did do is allow Warrington to fan out to the edges, and they did that really, really well. As for like I say, Catalan, superb, really, really good. The other thing as well that I have to pick up Mr. Clark on is George Williams. George Williams, by all accounts, was poor in this game. He only scored a try. He only ran 176 meters. He only had 8 tackle busts, and he only had 2 clean breaks. Interesting. Anyway, we'll move on. Like I say, for me, this is more about Catalan than it is about Warrington. I thought Catalan were superb. In adversity, they've done this time and time again, haven't they? Where the rest of the league think, with all the people that are out, they're not going to perform. And yet, every time he calls upon his strength in depth of squad, they never let him down. They were brilliant last night. I thought Romano's try was very well executed indeed. The big don't argue to Peter Matautia on your backside, son. Really, really good indeed. But of course, Warrington found a way. Right, let's get to it. We're 15 minutes to go, and Gil Dudson decides that he's going to have a Ben Flower moment. Unbelievable. Let's deal with Dudson first. Absolutely unacceptable behaviour. There's no place for that in the game. You don't hit a man on the floor when he can't defend himself. We'd all agree with that. It's just not acceptable. As Warrington fans out there will hopefully agree with that. There's no hiding place. He will certainly go up against the disciplinary panel this week, and I'd expect he's going to get a lengthy ban. And what he's done is he's let his team down, he's let the badge down. It's not acceptable, and I'm sure he'll reflect on that. We know also that he's had history with this. His last game for Catalan, he did something very similar. So I expect the disciplinary panel to throw the book at Gil Dudson, and rightly so. Not acceptable at all. That said, with 15 minutes to go, 14 apiece, you've got to give a big rap to the rest of the Warrington players. Down to 12 men. They defended heroically. Brilliant tackle on Mike McMeekin by George Williams. You've got to say that was a sensational effort from Williams. Again, a player that didn't have a very good game, Mr. Clark. Incredible. And of course, to then go on and to score a try in the making of George Williams. didn't have a good game, Phil Clark, was quite interesting. So, like I say, really good performance from the 12 that were left on the field. Gil Dudson's going to be spending quite a lot of time watching Warrington this season. I'm sure Darryl Powell will not be very happy, of course. You know, they managed to get him back early doors in the season because of that ban. He then, of course, had his hand injury, and to come back, I think he's only played a couple of games since coming back. And now I'm trying to guesstimate what he'll get. It'll certainly be over 4 games. It may even be up as high as 6, maybe 7, like we saw with Josh Maguire. So yeah, just really disappointing. Not acceptable behaviour. No Warrington fan can condone that kind of behaviour. And yeah, he deserves what's coming to him, I'm afraid. It's as simple as that. Massive game, though, now, isn't it? Next week at the Halliwell Jones, the Locker Cup. Warrington taking on Wigan first, taking on second. That is going to be superb. We already know that Dudson will be missing. It looks like Mike Cooper's going to be missing. No, Jay Field will be there, of course, as well. There's a hint from Darryl Powell that another player picked up a knock for Warrington. Many people thinking that could be Peter Matautia. So what's that going to do for the centre partnership of Warrington? There's just going to be so many stories unfolding as this week goes by in the build-up to the Locker Cup at Warrington, and I think every neutral will be tuning in like they did to this one and also to that Saints Wigan game, and they should get a feast of rugby league. So Warrington march on 8 from 8. Catalan, of course, firmly in third. The sign's brilliant for Catalan, has to be said. Many at the start of the season weren't sure about Catalan. I personally had them outside the top 6. I think the fans forum did. I think Greg did. On this type of showing and the way they've started this year, I think we've all been wrong. I think we've been too quick to judge. I think McNamara, yet again, has got the right combination down there, and they're gonna do all right this season. The Catalan Dragons. There's nothing to fear there. So finally, Catalan 14, the Warrington Wolves 20. Warrington 4 points clear at the top of Super League. We'll see you next time.